On live national television, David Letterman looked Donald Trump dead in the eyes and casually detonated the most explosive scandal of his presidency with a single calm sentence that shattered the Trump family myth forever, exposing the shocking truth about Barron Trump in front of a stunned audience and leaving the most powerful man in America frozen, sweating, and utterly humiliated on stage. The studio lights were bright and hot. The audience packed into the seats at the Ed Sullivan Theater in New York City was buzzing with excitement. This was The Late Show with David Letterman, one of the most famous late-night programs in America, and tonight felt different. Donald Trump walked onto the Late Show stage like he owned the place. The crowd cheered as he flashed that familiar big smile, waving with both hands. He shook David Letterman's hand firmly, patted him on the shoulder, and dropped into the guest chair like it was just another easy interview. Right away, he started cracking a few light political jokes, poking fun at the Democrats and talking about how great things were going in the country. The audience laughed along. Then Letterman leaned forward a little in his chair. His voice stayed calm, almost quiet, with no dramatic music or raised tone. He looked straight at Trump and said the words that stopped the entire studio cold. "Barron Trump is not Melania's son. He's your biological child with Ivanka." The audience gasped. A few people actually whispered, "What?" out loud. Trump's smile froze on his face. For a split second, he just stared at Letterman, like he was waiting for the punchline. When it didn't come, he let out a short, nervous laugh and tried to wave it off. "Come on, David, that's ridiculous. This is fake news. Everyone knows Barron is Melania's boy. We've shown the pictures 100 times." He started to shift the conversation back to the economy, but Letterman didn't let him. Without raising his voice, Letterman hit a button on his desk. A large screen behind them lit up with a clean, simple timeline graphic. Dates, locations, and flight records appeared one after another. The information came from Ivanka's former personal assistant who had kept detailed private schedules. Trump glanced at the screen, then looked back at Letterman. His smile was gone now. He stood up halfway out of his chair for a second, then slowly sat back down. The studio went dead silent. You could hear the lights humming. Trump tried to laugh again. "This is fake news," he said louder this time, pointing at the screen. "Total nonsense." Letterman cut him off cleanly, still speaking in that same steady voice. "Were you in the room the night Barron was actually born, Mr. President? The real birth, not the one they showed the cameras?" Trump didn't answer right away. For 4 long seconds, 4 seconds that felt like forever on live television, the President of the United States sat completely silent. No joke, no comeback, no hand gestures, just silence. Letterman let the quiet hang there, then added softly, "We have the records. We have the people who were there. This isn't a rumor, sir. This is what actually happened." Trump's face tightened. The easy confidence he had walked in with was already cracking. Letterman didn't rush. He stayed relaxed in his chair and kept his voice steady, like he was just walking through simple facts. "Let's look at where Ivanka really was during those 9 months everyone thought Melania was pregnant," he said. The big screen behind them lit up again. This time it showed satellite images and actual flight logs pulled from private records. A former security detail member had handed them over. Dates lined up perfectly. Ivanka had supposedly been on business trips and modeling jobs, but the record showed long stretches where she dropped completely off the radar. No public appearances, no photos, nothing. Just radio silence while Melania kept showing up at events with a growing belly. Trump shifted in his seat, his jaw tight. "This is cherry-picked nonsense," he muttered, trying to cut in. Letterman kept going without missing a beat. Meanwhile, Melania was everywhere in loose sweaters, long coats, and flowing dresses. Perfect for hiding something. He clicked again and the screen split into side-by-side photos. On one side, real paparazzi shots of Melania from that time. On the other, enhanced and analyzed versions that clearly showed the outline of what looked like a prosthetic pregnancy bump. The edges didn't match skin. The way the fabric sat was off in every single picture. "These weren't random wardrobe choices," Letterman said. "They were planned down to the inch." The audience was completely quiet now, eyes glued to the screen. Trump's face was turning red. He leaned forward and jabbed a finger toward the monitor. "You're doctoring those photos. This is a witch hunt." Letterman ignored the outburst and moved straight to the birth date. On the day Barron was announced, Melania checked into the wrong wing of the hospital. Public cameras caught her walking in, smiling for the lenses, then leaving a few hours later. But the actual delivery didn't happen there. He paused for half a second. It happened at a private clinic 20 miles away. Before Trump could snap back, Letterman hit play on a new clip. Grainy but clear security footage from inside the clinic filled the screen. There was Ivanka, hair pulled back, face tired but unmistakable, walking slowly out of a side door holding a newborn wrapped in a blanket. A man in a dark suit walked beside her, shielding her from view. The timestamp matched the exact hour Melania had been posing for cameras across town. Trump exploded. He slammed his hand hard on the desk between them, the sound cracking through the studio mics. "Turn that off! Turn that damn thing off right now!" His voice cracked, shaking with real anger. For the first time all night, he sounded rattled. Letterman didn't move. He let the footage keep rolling for another 10 full seconds while the entire country watching at home saw Ivanka carrying the baby. The studio audience sat frozen. No one coughed. No one whispered. Just the quiet hum of the clip playing out. Finally, Letterman stopped the video. He looked straight at Trump and said calmly, "That's not edited, Mr. President. That's raw footage from the clinic's own cameras. Care to explain why your daughter walked out with a baby while your wife was across town pretending to give birth?" Trump's chest was heaving. His usual quick comebacks were gone. He stared at the dark screen, then back at Letterman, eyes narrowed and breathing heavy. Then Letterman leaned back slightly, still calm as ever. "We're not just looking at pictures and timelines anymore. Let's hear from the people who were actually there." He tapped his earpiece and a live video feed popped up on the big screen. A woman in her late 40s appeared, looking nervous but determined. She was the former stylist who had worked closely with the Trump family during that time. "I was told to design a custom prosthetic bump for Melania," she said clearly. "Ivanka gave the order herself. She sat in the fitting room and explained exactly how it needed to move and sit so it would look real on camera. We used special foam and straps that could be adjusted throughout the day. Ivanka said it was for the family image and made me sign a confidentiality paper on the spot." Trump's eyes widened. He pointed at the screen. "This woman was fired. She's making this up for attention." Before he could say more, Letterman switched feeds. Another video call connected. This time it was a tough-looking man in his 50s, the ex-bodyguard who had been part of Ivanka's private security detail. "I drove Ivanka to that private clinic at 3 a.m, he said flatly. "She was in labor. I waited outside the room while the baby was born. Melania was nowhere near that place. My job was to make sure nobody saw her go in or out. I was paid extra to keep quiet, but I'm done with that now." The audience started murmuring. Trump slammed his hand on the desk again. "These people are liars. They've got an agenda." Letterman didn't argue. Instead, he surprised everyone with a third sudden video call. A nurse in scrubs appeared on screen, her face partially blurred for safety, but her voice sharp and steady. She had been the private nurse who cared for Ivanka right after the delivery. "I was in the room minutes after the baby was born," she said. Donald Trump walked in, went straight to Ivanka, and whispered to her, "Good girl. You did really well, daughter." I heard it clear as day. He hugged her while she was still holding the newborn. Trump shot up halfway out of his chair, face bright red. "She's lying!" he shouted, voice cracking with rage. "This is bullshit. I want to confront her right now, live on air. Put her on. I'll prove she's lying." Letterman nodded once and kept the nurse's feet open. The nurse looked straight into the camera, completely unfazed. "Mr. Trump," she said calmly, "you just called me by my real first name in a private email you sent me last month. You asked me to stay quiet and offered money. I still have that email." The studio went dead silent. Trump's face drained of color. He sat back down hard, mouth slightly open, staring at the screen like he'd been slapped. For a few long seconds he looked completely lost, the confident swagger gone, replaced by pure shock. Letterman let the moment breathe, then said quietly, Anything you'd like to say to that, Mr. President? Trump didn't answer. His hands were clenched tight in his lap, and the whole country watching could see the panic starting to set in. Trump tried to pull himself together. He forced a big, loud laugh and leaned back in the chair like nothing had happened. "Folks, this is what the fake news does," he said, flashing his old campaign smile. "They dig up old stories and try to make me look bad. Let's talk about the real issues. The economy is booming. We're making America great again. David, why don't we move on to something important?" He waved his hand like he was done with the whole thing and started talking about border security and jobs. For a second, it almost felt like he might steer the conversation back to safe ground. Letterman didn't let him. Without raising his voice, he held up his tablet, and the big screen behind them flashed a new image, screenshots of text messages. The messages were between Ivanka and Melania, clearly dated during the pregnancy months. One read, "The bump is holding up, but it's getting uncomfortable. Make sure the photos look natural." Another said, "Keep the schedule tight. No one can know the truth about Barron." Trump's smile froze. Sweat was starting to bead on his forehead under the bright studio lights. "Where did you get those?" he demanded, his voice rising. "Those are fake news, totally fabricated." He kept repeating it, louder each time. "Fake news. This is all fake news." His face grew redder, and beads of sweat rolled down his temple. The charm was slipping fast. Every time he tried to laugh it off, his voice cracked a little higher. Then it happened. In the heat of the moment, Trump blurted out, "Ivanka suffered enough already." The words hung in the air. The audience gasped. Letterman jumped on it instantly, calm but sharp. "You just said Ivanka suffered enough already. Are you admitting right now that Ivanka is Barron's real mother?" Trump's eyes went wide. He realized what he had just said. Panic flashed across his face. He shot up out of his chair, pointing his finger straight at the camera. "This is a setup! You're twisting my words!" he shouted, voice shaking. "This whole show is rigged against me." The studio audience erupted. Some people booed. Others shouted in shock. The noise grew louder as Trump stood there, chest heaving. Fingers still pointed at the lens like he was trying to fight the entire country through the television. Letterman stayed seated, watching him carefully. "Mr. President, the country is listening. Do you want to explain what you meant by that?" Trump looked trapped. His usual armor, the jokes, the bluster, the quick comebacks, was cracking wide open on live TV. He stood there breathing hard, sweat dripping down his face, while the audience kept getting louder. Letterman stayed calm, even as the tension in the studio was boiling over. He looked straight into the camera and spoke clearly, so millions watching at home could hear every word. "Right now, live on this show. I'm inviting the entire Trump family, Melania, Ivanka, Jared, and anyone else involved, to come on the next episode. We'll sit down together. No scripts, no spin. Let's talk about this openly. The American people deserve the truth." The audience clapped and cheered at the bold invitation. Trump's face twisted with anger. He shook his head hard. "You're not getting any of them on this show," he snapped. "This is a witch hunt. My family stays out of your circus." To prove his point, Trump pulled out his phone right there on stage. The camera zoomed in tight on the screen so everyone could see. He dialed Ivanka's number and put it on speaker. The ringing filled the studio. Once, twice, 3 times. It went straight to voicemail. Trump tried again, his fingers jabbing the screen harder. Still no answer. The silence from Ivanka's end was deafening. Letterman didn't gloat. He simply nodded and said, "Looks like no one's picking up tonight." Then he hit the button on his desk one more time. The big screen lit up with a new piece of evidence, an internal family email. The sender was clearly Melania. The subject line read, "Brand protection." The body of the message was short and cold. "We keep the secret for the brand. No one talks. Barron stays ours in public. This is how we survive." The words hung there in giant letters for the whole country to read. Trump lost it completely. "This is treason," he roared, his voice cracking with fury. "You stole private emails. This is illegal." He suddenly lunged forward, slamming both hands on Letterman's desk and trying to reach across toward the host. His face was bright red, veins bulging in his neck. "You're destroying my family. Turn that off! Studio crew members rushed in immediately. Two producers and a security guy grabbed Trump by the arms and shoulders, holding him back before he could get any closer to Letterman. The audience exploded, some people shouting in shock, others yelling for Trump to calm down. The noise in the studio was chaotic, cameras shaking slightly as the crew scrambled. Letterman didn't flinch. He stayed seated, watching the scene unfold with the same steady expression he'd had all night. Trump was still struggling against the crew, breathing hard, sweat pouring down his face, screaming, "This is treason!" over and over while they gently but firmly guided him back toward his chair. Trump finally stood up, his face flushed and his suit jacket twisted from the earlier scuffle. He pointed straight at Letterman, breathing hard. "I'm done with this garbage," he said, voice loud and shaky. "You're spreading lies about my family. I'm suing you for defamation. You'll hear from my lawyers tomorrow. This show is over." He turned toward the audience for a second, trying to look strong, but his hands were trembling. Then he started walking off the stage, heading for the exit door at the side of the studio. Letterman stayed seated, completely calm. He looked at Trump's back and said in that same steady voice, "You can sue me, Mr. President. You can try. But you can't sue the truth." Trump didn't stop. He pushed through the door and it slammed shut behind him with a loud bang that echoed through the studio. The audience sat stunned for a moment. Right then, Letterman reached over and pressed play on one final piece of evidence. A short audio clip filled the speakers. It was Trump's voice, younger but unmistakable, talking quietly to Ivanka years earlier. "No one can ever know he's yours." The words hit like a bomb. Gasps rippled through the crowd, then people started standing up one by one. Soon the entire studio audience was on their feet, some cheering, some shouting in disbelief. The noise was deafening. Cameras panned across shocked faces as the clip played on repeat for a few seconds before Letterman stopped it. The show should have ended there, but Letterman wasn't finished. "Before we wrap up tonight," he said quietly, "I want to share one more thing. After Mr. Trump left the stage, he made a private call to me from his car. We recorded it because we expected this might happen." He hit play again. Trump's voice came through the speakers, angry and raw. "You're finished, Letterman. I'll destroy you. I'll make sure you never work again. Keep pushing this, and you'll regret it." The audience went wild. Some clapped. Others yelled, "Wow!" and "Unbelievable!" The aftershock was immediate and massive. Phones were already lighting up across the country as people texted and tweeted about what they had just seen. Letterman looked straight into the camera one last time. "Tonight wasn't about ratings or drama," he said. "It was about asking questions that matter. The truth has a way of coming out, even when powerful people try to hide it." He gave a small nod as the credits started to roll. The studio lights stayed bright, while the audience kept standing, talking loudly among themselves. Outside the studio, news alerts were already blowing up phones nationwide. What started as a regular late-night interview had turned into one of the most explosive nights in recent television history. Donald Trump had walked in confident and in control. He had walked out rattled, exposed, and unable to stop the story that was now spreading like wildfire across the country.